Hi, I'm Tim of the 1916 Company, announcing our all-new 1916 Company app. Check out our all-new community features, including wrist time, where you can log the watch you wear, how often you wear your watches, and see a graphical representation of how you use your collection. But wait, there's more, because this wrist time feature allows you to post in real time to our live feed of user wrist shots. Our community functions also include professionally moderated discussions, all sorts of views, debate, insights into what people want to say about the watches of our times, and all your favorite features are coming back, including media, editorial from Jack Forster, video from yours truly. You can continue to build your online collection and your wish list, plus all the commercial features are back. Buy, trade, and sell through the app, browse our global inventory of pre-owned and new watches. A wrist shot could begin the process of a trade or a purchase. Find the 1916 Company app on the Apple App Store and Google. Hi, this is Tim of the 1916 Company. Welcome to Collector Conversations. Nothing gives me greater pleasure than to welcome back a friend and a returning champion. Today, Drew Coblitz is back. We're talking watches, cars, and what's changed since we interviewed at the peak of the COVID era. First of all, we're not sitting 30 feet apart, so there's that.
Yeah.
Now, your passion for watches is second only to your, I guess, sense of humor. So why don't we start with a watch that's just emblematic? We have Cermit, and on the back, we have Kermit. How did this happen?
It happened because obviously my sense of humor just knows no bounds of childishness. And I'd always kind of had the idea to, because all the Rolexes have different, Batman, Batgirl, Kermit, Cermit. I'm sure I'm missing, a bunch of other ones in there. And I was like, well, I've already drawn this terrible dinosaur on other things. Like, why don't I go draw a terrible Kermit for a Kermit? And so I was actually at, your 1916 store in Suburban Square with Ryan, and it was my birthday was coming up, and she was like, well, is there anything, be interested for on your birthday? And I'm like, well, yeah, and it is a watch, but it's so I could actually do something funny with it. And she's like, I'm all ears, interested. I said, well, I figure, like, I don't have a new sub, killer watches for all, commentary. It's a perfect watch. You can wear it every day. I like the green, and I was like, I'd love to be able to draw a bag Kermit on the back of it and have it actually be done for my birthday. The original purpose of getting a Rolex for the most part was a celebratory something. So that's a really cool thing to have that for a birthday and have it with all the, my drawing and sense of humor stuff on it. And she was like, I think we can make that happen. And lo and behold, she made it happen, and you guys did. So I should say thank you for that. But went about drawing what's on the back of there, drawing the Kermit, and then a couple other, and the Further Streets thing is just supposed to be for my sense of humor because it's just, terribly inappropriate most of the time. 88's my birth year there. And I thought that was great. And then I was like, well, what would be also interesting to do would be, you can't see engravings, from, when you're wearing the watch normally. Like, it'd be cool to have something on the outside, because I feel like very few people have ever done that. I think I saw two people, maybe one or two, that have done initials on a clasp on the outside. And I was like, that's kind of interesting. I don't mind that. It's cool. It kind of breaks what you would normally, think to see. But I'm like, well, I'm not doing my initials because I know what they are. I don't need the reminder of it. Although I guess it could be an emergency, in case of emergency kind of thing.
Blood type A.
Would be funny if I was, a military. That would be, maybe a little bit cool, but I wasn't. So I was like, oh, I've got to go sense of humor. And I'm like, well, what do I put on a clasp? And I'm thinking, well, there are a couple things, but I was like, well, what do you do with the clasp? And I was like, well, you pop it and you lock it. And I'm like, well, that's also the dance, which is a, song, kind of mix of everything. I'm like, and I do dance really crappy around cars often. So I'm like, wait, let me just do this here. So pop and lock it, ends up, on the back there. I dig it. In case I forget, or, if I have a stroke out, I can look at it and be like, oh yeah, that's right. This is what you're supposed to do.
Well, it's good. So you'll never forget how to dance as long as you got the watch.
That's exactly right. And as soon as I see it, I just start going into dance mode. I'm going to save everyone that here. But
Well, that's all right, because we can talk a little bit about this drawing on the back. Now, it's a fascinating image of Kermit the Frog. I'm not saying Jim Henson wouldn't be proud. I'm just saying if it takes 1 year to make a Rolex, it took 15 seconds to make this drawing.
that's kind. I think it was about 7.
Very cool. Now, did you specifically have the idea of Kermit on the back and Cermit on the front?
Yes.
So you had these things envisioned as a pair?
Yeah, 100%. And so even the new reference, it started when it came out in 2020, I want to say.
Yeah.
The green was a darker green, so that was when, the Starbucks was the name of it, at that point. And then they changed it in mid-23. They changed this green to a lighter green, to a more vivid green. And I was like, all right, well, now it's back to like Cermit Kermit. And I'm like, well, now this is something that I could maybe at some point do that, drawing on. So it was just a random idea until Ryan was like, do you want to do something? And I'm like, screw it, I'm going to ask, because, you don't get what you don't ask for.
And also kind of bold, like making it yours. Like, you know what? I'm going to make this so weird that only I will find these modifications appealing.
Oh, absolutely. And the fact that it's just all done here, I just thought that was really cool. And I mean, that's the kind of thing that, I'll have this watch for forever, because A, it's a great watch. B, I mean, anything that has a little bit of sense of humor, especially in a super serious world, that's my everything.
100%. Well, the interesting thing here is you kind of made this one your own. This, on the other hand, this is just like fate. Okay, so you've got a 7206 rivet bracelet, 58 end links, late 60s origin, a dial that could never be recreated. Tell me about your 1016 Explorer here.
Time created what that watch is now.
Where did this come from?
That came from Adam Golden at Menta Watches, and I had wanted a 1016 for a while anyways, just because that 36 millimeter wears bigger than what that 36 says. It's a killer vintage watch to own in general. It doesn't matter which one. It's almost probably is my top pick for when someone says, hey, I want a vintage Rolex, where do I start? The 1016 in general, there are a bunch of references of them. They start price-wise pretty reasonably in the 15 grand range. They may have shifted a hair, but they start there. I mean, they can go up, quite heavily, but it's a killer watch. It's low key. The 369, the Explorer dial came from here. Aesthetically, killer watch. I had wanted one of those, but then I'd always wanted a tropical dial watch as well. So I was on the hunt for kind of both at the same time. When I was realizing that a bunch of 1016s are tropical, there's a good year set. There's like a 3-ish or 4-year set where there were plenty of them that kind of came about like that. But it's like art in the sense of like every tropical dial is different. Some of them look, some look lacquered, some look powdery, some look. I mean, it just depends on what they were using, even chemically for any given moment at that production time.
It's almost like Fordite. You could never get the same dial twice.
Flat out. But this one, Adam posted that not for sale, and I immediately sent him a message saying yeah, I'm gonna be that guy. Please, he was the one that I told that I wanted one anyways. And he was like, I get it, I'm not selling it right now, but just, figure it out. Every month for the next 6 months or 7 months, I just point out and I'm like, hey, maybe, you kind of there? He's like, no, but I'll do it,
It's like when you know this guy who's got a car and he's not going to sell it, but you keep asking anyway.
100%. And then finally he ended up in Europe on a trip, and I pinged him out again, and he was like, all right, I'll tell Jordan, Jordan works for him. I'll tell Jordan to send it to you. Yeah, fine, it's yours. And I was like, oh my God, that's awesome. Thank you so much. Sends it to me. And meanwhile, I didn't even know any of the rest of the watch. I just saw the dial from the the pictures that he had posted. He sends me the watch, and I picking it up, and I'm like, this looks super good. The case is insane. The bracelet's insane. Everything's insane. I'm like, all right. I mean, I bought this for the dial, but do me, tell me about the rest of the watch. It's original bracelet, original hands, original everything, unpolished. Like all these things where I was like, I would have paid the same number for anything that dial was in. And then it turns out it's in like a unicorn of of case bracelet combo and originality. So yeah, I'm in love with this watch.
It's almost like a watch customized by fate.
It's exactly right. And I mean, it is irreplicable. It's off the charts amazing. I mean, even I don't have words for it, and I normally have words for probably more than I should.
Now, speaking of things that are vintage and customized, last time we talked, we focused on your car collection. We focused on some of your automotive associated watches. You had your Porsche Club of America, a Gray Side of the Moon, very cool piece. Since then, I guess you were already at the time when we shot that video waiting on your Emory 356. So tell me a little bit about that, because that car and this watch sort of go together spiritually.
Yeah, so that car, Rod does outlaw builds off of 356s. So
it's out in California.
It's out in California. Currently North Hollywood, and that's where his business has been, although he's actually about to finally switch shops. And he's about to do a big move, which is gonna be really cool. But mine was done right in North Hollywood. And it took about 6 years, right at the 6-year mark. I signed up in 2019, so right as the Singer was finishing, my first Singer, I'd signed up for that because God knows I always need to have a project. And yeah, started then, and just March of this year, I took delivery, he finished the car, and then I guess May, I kind of took delivery of the car in California finally. And it is off the charts, incredible, insanely perfect.
And it's kind of fun because at first glance, like, oh, it's a 356.
Yeah.
But then you get a little bit closer, you're like, okay, superior red, that's a special paint code.
Yeah.
Every panel has been modified. Okay, this interior is customized. Wait, where did this engine come from?
Yeah.
Tell me a little bit about these parts, because people who love watches love engines. These are small machines, that's a big machine.
Yeah.
The engine's the craziest part, because when you pulled up today, before you texted me, I could hear you from 2 floors up.
Yeah.
Okay, so this is not a 356 engine.
No.
And there was never a 4-cylinder 911 engine. So where did this come from?
So that motor is a 2.6 liter. It's a 2.6 liter 4-cylinder motor, Polo style in the sense of it started life as a 6-cylinder that the center cylinders were cut out, and then the outer 2 are brought in. So this one is one that Rod ended up designing after using Polo motors for so long. So he then basically refined that with Jeff Gamroth. And Jeff Gamroth builds incredible race motors. I mean, he's known for it. He's done all sorts of amazing stuff for a lot of companies, but he's been doing this with Rod now for a while. And that motor, 2.6 liters, twin spark, dry sump, 262 horsepower out of that 2.6 liters. So that's over 100 horsepower a liter.
In a car that's down by 2,000 pounds.
In a car that weighs 1,950 pounds. So when you hear that, you hear the motor, it's a race motor. I mean, the thing is wildly fun. And in that car, there's nothing like it. The intake sound too, the moment you kind of start tipping in, it fills the car.
And it's just got so much character, the sight of it, the sound of it. It could never be mistaken for anything else. And I think it's kind of fun because you got a lot of really distinctive watches that could never be mistaken for anything else. So why don't we go from kind of a discussion of Porsche, which is prolific at the 24 Hours of Le Mans, to a watch that's probably always going to be associated with Ferrari for different reasons.
Yeah, no. That watch in general, though, the millisecond they came out with that watch, I mean, everyone in general, of course, with the new Daytona would be like, oh my God, yes. But as a car person, as a racing person, you name it, the moment that was kind of done as a thing, it was like, all right, like have to have. And unfortunately, of course, that was like the one that dealers maybe got one, especially for the white gold. Was a whole pain in the butt. I did inquire to try to get one that way, and that was too hard. The person that got it from me, from here, I could not compete with, to say the least. I like him. He's a very, very cool guy. But but I had to eventually end up with one anyways because my 6241 I love vintage. That is probably my favorite watch. Period. From a aesthetics, aesthetics.
And not just a 6241, a Paul Newman.
No,
honest to God, Paul Newman.
Newman dial, perfect. I mean, perfect everything. And a bit of me was actually thinking about getting a charcoal dial, like a 6239, to kind of like round out the set. And then this came out, and I was like, you know what? Interesting. I already have what I think is like my peak vintage, Daytona. This, comes out with the, Newman style, like actual proper Newman style text, sub-dial
the sub-registers
text.
with the lollipop indices.
It's the old fancy dial. They really did, bring that out. It's a different case, different bezel, the red 100 on the bezel, the movement that actually, that's now
built to be seen.
24-hour chronograph, for the 24 hours. I mean, this is all, you're hitting every button of like one for a car person. Yeah, I mean, and it's one thing to be like, oh, this is such a, the green's cool. This isn't about the green. This is about like arguably the perfect car guy's modern watch.
And it complements the 6241 so well to have both of them.
Perfectly. And the thing is, what I love about Rolex more than any other company, for the most part, is it doesn't matter what Rolex it is. The timekeeping is unbelievable. The reliability is unbelievable, and they can all take a beating. That simple. So for something that you could have in a car, you can do wear through life, wear through everything. Vintage, you have to be a little bit careful for it. You always do. It is what it is. But to have the vintage feel and the aesthetic, and then a little bit of that warmth in a modern watch, then it's like, okay, well now I can wear this the way that like I like to wear my watches, which is pretty hard. I'm careful with them, but I wear them hard, if that makes sense.
And, I know exactly what you mean, because with a lot of people that say, look, I love my big crown sub from the 50s, but
you're not diving it.
No, I'm taking my 6-digit on vacation to go swimming.
Yeah.
And that's the way it is. So with this, you can beat on it like it's a piece of motorsports equipment. Now you've treated yours a little bit better than that, but at the same time, you can definitely do things with this that your generations old manual wind Daytona would not be subjected to.
No, and you don't have to. You just don't have to worry about it, and that is phenomenal. So the both of them together are really an ideal pair, and I have a hard time wanting that many other variants of it while I have those, because that really kind of does it.
And it makes sense, because if you look at the way you use your cars, you're not going to do things with the Emory Outlaw that you're going to do with your salt, sand, and sleet winter weather car.
Yeah.
You still want to have fun, so you're going to drive the RS6
Absolutely.
Audi.
Yeah.
You're not going to, I don't know, slum it in a Tim Masso Chevrolet Volt. I'm just kidding you there. But my point is that not many survive.
No.
So, it's one of those deals where you've got something for every occasion, and they're horses for courses.
Yep.
And this is one that you can use as a daily driver, just like the Audi.
No, absolutely. And the only thing that, just because I love the vintage everything, I really do wish they had done this in a stainless steel instead of the white gold, or titanium would have been the ultimate on sport. That would have been super cool. But admittedly, in the white gold with the hue that it gives off, the warmer, it's fun. It's cool.
My thought is probably here, they wanted to give it some sort of, I don't know, sense of occasion, something that would be more difficult to duplicate. And so far, they're only featuring display case backs on the precious metal Daytonas. So I just think maybe it's a combination of features they wanted to lock in. But I will tell you that the red 100 for the 100th anniversary of the 24 hours, and Ferrari wins in its comeback, oh my God, I get chills up my spine.
They may be clairvoyant.
No, that was absolute, and it was the beginning of a new dynasty, because Ferrari hasn't lost since this watch came out. Now, you do rotate through cars, you rotate through watches, but for you, a lot of the vintage pieces, whether they're cars or watches, they tend to be the keepers, because they can be difficult to duplicate.
Yeah, totally.
So tell me a little bit about how you found your 6241, because those don't grow on trees. Even at dealers, they don't get an allocation of vintage watches.
No, that came from a friend of mine that I've done a lot of car and watch stuff with. That came from Jeff Istringhausen, and his family owns Istringhausen Imports in the Illinois, Chicago area, Springfield, I think.
Yeah.
Somewhere around. And I've done car stuff with him before, and I feel like I did like a couple watch things previously, and he ends up texting me at some point, because I knew that I was kind of looking for a Newman. I had hit the point where I kind of wanted one, because that is my grail watch. Like, that was the one that I originally had said, this is it. And, at some point I was like, all right, I'll consolidate, I'll kind of do whatever. And that's always one of those where you want to get something and you're ready to do it, but like in order to do it, you'll probably have to sell a couple things, and you have in your head that you'll be fine to do it. And then you finally get a call or a text, and it's like, all right, like now is actually the time to do it. He sends me pictures of that one, and he's like, dude, I'm not posting it. I really need it to go to someone I know, so it stays local or stays close. It is a perfect watch. The dial is a 10 out of 10. There's zero anything imperfect with it. The case is pretty gorgeous. The bezel's nice, but the dial is so good. And he was like, here's the price. And I was like, good Lord, okay, I get it, makes sense. So I ended up having to sell. I sold a Ferrari. Ironically, after the Ferrari conversation, I sold a 360 Modena. Traded him that. I traded him a 6263 Daytona.
So we have cars going back and forth.
Car and watch. The car and watch trade going into this, because that is easily the most expensive watch I've ever bought. But so worth it. I did that back maybe 3.5 years ago, 4 years ago, and like that watch, I could sell every other watch I have. I could get rid of everything else, only have that for the rest of my life. That would be the one.
And that makes sense, because on a lot of levels, like once you've got the watch of watches, like it's like with my de Bethune, once I've got it, it's mine forever.
Yep.
And the pain is brief, the pleasure is forever. That's the point. Like
yeah.
It's like getting a pinprick and then it's done.
Yeah.
And you don't strike me as the kind of guy who would get sentimental about a Ferrari anyway.
Not for the most part, although admittedly, one of the cars I missed the most that I would have liked more time with and I wasn't planning to sell was actually that 360, because it was a stick 360 black.
I remember that car.
And it wasn't, the value's a little bit more now than it was then. It's not like there was investment wise, it's not like I just lost out on a huge, huge anything.
It's not like a $5.99 manual.
No, not like that at all. And not like the 458 Speciale and the Pista Spider that I had, that I was very happy with and did fine with, but now they're worth double. When I sold those, actually the Speciales were triple than when I sold that, and the Pista Spider is worth about double, or maybe a little under double what I sold for that.
Okay, maybe you should stop trading and selling the Ferraris.
Yeah, maybe I need to stop doing that. I'm just a Porsche guy at the end of the day. But admittedly, the Porsches have also done me very well. So I've been very happy with that.
You wound up with the Daytona, the likes of which would be very difficult to duplicate, like your 356, like your Singer, and like this 1016.
Yeah, no, totally. And that, and now, after however many years, there is now a push on Newmans again. So I don't plan on selling it, but it's nice hearing when I get the text of like, oh hey, like do you want to sell that? I'm like, no, I'm still good.
You beat the market to the punch.
Yeah, it took a few years, but at some point it worked out okay.
Now here's the great thing. Like, it doesn't always take a ton of money to have a really close link to an artist or the person behind your car or your watch, or even to get into something that's a lot of fun with a great history. This is awesome because of the relationships it represents. You got to tell me about this Carrera Dado.
So that Carrera Dado came about, it's a Carrera Dado that Wes Lang did one of his drawings to have as a print on dial. And he did a run of 5 of these stainless ones, and then he did a run of 15 full gold ones. And I don't know actually the first time I met Wes, but it would have been at Journe events in LA over the past few years, but that would have been like a brief oh hi, and also saying I'm a huge fan of your art because I actually quite like his style. But then, when you're in that boutique, any of the Journe boutiques, you see plenty of his art. And, I got to say hi to him a little bit there, and then I got to spend a lot of time with him at Waco's wedding literally a year ago. And it was just one of those, like, when you finally get to spend time with someone that's not, in the middle of, everyone kind of doing their thing, and you're like, oh, you like this, I like this too. Really cool to like actually spend time with him there. And he was like, oh, come by the studio. Sure, hell yeah, we'll go by the studio. So I went by there. We ended up having pizza, which, if we have pizza together, we're friends for life. As far as I'm concerned, I think that's how that's how it works. And it turns out he's a car guy as well. He likes older American. He's done really cool etches on glass. Like on his like the rear glass there, really interesting. And he's obviously a mammoth watch collector, like incredible watch collector.
That surprises me a little bit.
Yeah.
It seems like such an orderly, like buttoned up thing, the watch, compared to the kind of chaotic freeform art he creates.
When you talk watches with him, you see all the creativity that he has, like for his painting. It's like he appreciates that from the watchmakers to the watch. I mean, like that tie, the tie that he has with it is amazingly cool, and it's a way more artistic view than what I have, with my relationship with watches and watchmaking. So all that goes into then say, this past winter, he was like, he calls me up and he's like, hey, I'm doing this thing with George Bamford, TAG. I did this cool drawing. It's on the watch. I think you'll like it because it's the burning skull tire. It does look like the Indianapolis. It absolutely looks like the IMS logo. It's really cool. If you're interested, I'm doing 5. If you would, if you want one, I'm happy to allocate you one. And I was like, yeah, duh, that's super, super cool, because now I can have like a little piece of his creativity like on my wrist. And I'm thinking, this is awesome. I'm not even traditionally a huge art person in the sense of I like art, but I'm not in my home to appreciate art that much. But like on the wrist, I can travel with it. And that's a way to like actually have something that he's done with me, which I think is super cool. It really resonates.
And that's great, because you can't take your fine art collection on a vacation. And it's the same thing we often say about cars. Like, there are places where the car cannot go, and for those places, there's the watch.
Yeah, and this is, there have been, there are companies that have done various, art collaborations, but this one was even cooler to me because I think the rose gold one was publicized. I think Hodinkee did something on it, but the steel one that he did these 5 for wasn't publicized. He just did it. It was super cool. I hope it's okay to talk about it. At this point, it is what it is. And and I was like, all right, well, what's something also that I can bring that you probably won't have even seen? And I don't know how many things there are like that because you've seen so much. I'm like, that's probably one of them.
That's a first.
Yeah.
And it's really cool to hear about how an artist processes watches, because I got the same kind of feeling anytime I'm speaking to James Thompson of Black Badger. This is a guy who's an incredibly creative individual. He's always working on his next project. He has an incredible passion for watches, and I sort of get that. Speaking of how Wes Lang probably absorbs the watch from an artist's standpoint, he identifies with the creator.
Yeah, and he likes the fact that that the watch itself is a motorsports related watch. It wasn't just doing it as something on anything. It was the whole. It had to fit.
Yeah, it's not an aqua timer.
No, it had to fit. Yeah, and I just thought that was really cool. So it's been one of the watches that I've had fun wearing, and and it's as low key as it gets for the most part. Until people look at the dial and I'm like, well, what the heck is that?
Yeah, and I'm a YouTuber, so for me, I don't quite process the watch on the same level of as an artist. But for someone like this to be able to say, look, I identify with the Carrera, and I want to add my contribution to the vernacular, and you get something like this.
Yeah, see, he draws something on a watch, and I draw something on a watch. The only difference is mine.
Well, his is good.
Yeah, that's it. That's what I was going for. But true.
That's very cool. That's very cool. Well, speaking of folks who kind of have like an auteur style where you immediately know what you're looking at, FP Journe, not a whole lot of automotive associations, though he told me he likes old Mercedes-Benz. But I don't think his designs come much more definitive than this, though you gave it your own style. So tell me about your Chronomètre Bleu.
I did. No, the watch is as Journe has done his thing. However, I love Alcantara, suede Alcantara. It's in quite a few of the race cars, a bunch of the normal cars. You know, I love it. They started doing these straps actually a bit ago. They had like a blue, they had a gray, and
where did it come from?
They are Rousseau.
Oh, it is Jean Rousseau.
Yeah,
okay.
yeah, it's Rousseau. And they ended up having this one. I bought this watch, and then a little bit after that, orange strap actually showed up at the Miami boutique, and I was like, is that available? And you know, Rocky there checked, and he's like, yeah, it's available. I think it was a special order that someone like bailed on, and I was like, well, it's Alcantara on Alcantara in orange. It's perfect. And I like the tantalum dark metal case with the perfect blue, like perfect blue dial, and then to have the punch of orange, I just think that's fun.
I think it looks absolutely awesome.
Yeah.
I mean, it does help if you're a fan of the Chicago Bears, but you don't have to be.
No.
It's a great look. You could be a Mets fan, but you don't have to be.
You could be a Knicks fan.
There you go. Well, if you're a Mets fan, you're probably a Knicks fan.
I mean, nowadays, I guess.
Well, we used
I guess.
to do Mets, Jets, Knicks, and Islanders back on Long Island.
That had to be painful.
Yeah, well, you don't have to buy. You can skip out and stick with Mr. Journe. I'm sure he has very strong feelings about European football. But it's an incredible watch, and it actually showcases one factor that I think is underrated about FP Journe. Yes, something is underrated. Watchmaking aside, he has an incredible eye for aesthetics.
Unbelievable.
And this is probably his definitive design. Even in a world where the resonance and the tourbillon remontoir exist, cream print on metallic blue in a tantalum case, that is his forever design.
Yeah, and I think what I appreciate, actually now within even the independent world, three-handers are, three-handers relatively speaking, in a time-only watch, and however, the watchmaker wants to do seconds. That's the bee's knees thing. Everyone's going and doing them, and now an indie is charging six figures for the most part for a time-only watch. And meanwhile, Journe comes out in It was
2009 he came out.
I was going to
with
say,
this.
I was like 10 or 9. So in 2009 comes out with effectively what so many other of these independents are effectively trying to do, and in one fell swoop, and at that time, very inexpensively, I don't know, makes one of the most simple, perfect watches to me, period, and 39 millimeters. It is the most wearable, for my wrist in particular, but one of the most wearable, Journe models. Tantalum just looks special as hell. And what I like about this is it's kind of like, car that looks really nice on the outside, but low key, and then it's got a race motor in it. Turn it around, and that full rose gold movement, it pops so much behind the tantalum.
And you were right about this being ahead of the curve. So when this was in development in 2007 and 2008, watches were the size of my fist. They had 2, 3, 4 tourbillon regulators. This was so far ahead of like Charles Frodsham and Roger W. Smith and Recep Recepi making very simple three-hand watches with 8-year waiting lists.
Yep.
This was supposed to be the entry-level model, and his thought was, well, let's create a friendly, approachable watch, and then they'll buy a tourbillon, and then they'll buy a resonance. Now, this is his most in-demand model. Not the most expensive, but the most in-demand.
It really is special. And I've had that now for about a little over a half a year. I've worn it everywhere. I changed the orange strap to something a little bit more low-key. I wear it traveling. It's kind of the ultimate. If you know in the sense of, in the watch world, obviously now so many people know, and especially after all the auctions and all of everything, it's becoming a little bit more well-known. But even still, that worn on the wrist, on the street.
Maybe not with an orange strap.
The orange, well, you know what, and even that, it still looks kind of like it looks like a really nice dress watch, like as a quick flyby.
And everyone knows that I'm an FP Journe realist. Like I take the good with the bad, and I've always been very honest about that. I will say this is discussed as an icon alongside designs that have been around for 50, 60 years, 70 in some cases. And FP Journe gave me the best ever advice I've heard about how to launch a watch, and he said, design the dial first. Nailed it.
Yeah, and coloring and like the depth of the blue that's there. I know that the amount of these dials that they throw away.
There is a rejection rate. Yeah.
Trying to do that is wild, but it really is just one of those, perfection deals.
Now this is a little bit interesting because that one I understand. That's a sporty, sort of youthful style. This is a much more traditional Journe. This goes back to the early days of the brand. As early as 2001, we had a version of this dial. So, okay, Octa Automatique Reserve de Marche. How did this connect with you? Because this is by far your most conservative watch.
So this was the first Journe that I was allocated from boutique. From them, from the whole, doing the process, doing everything. And for my first one, I wanted that to have a tie back to Journe's history.
So something with
history.
deep roots.
Yeah, and I just thought that, no Loon, although I love the Loon. Honestly, there isn't a model that I don't like from him, but this was just the one that I also remember seeing these forever ago, back when they were 38 millimeter. I would see them on a few of my friends' wrists, and I just always noticed it. The asymmetrical dial, I just immediately knew, like, oh, that's Journe. And I knew about the brand and I had been around it. I just had not, gone and done much with it until I think 2017 or 2018, going to the actually LA boutique in the beginning, and then kind of started inquiring, and then I had asked for something, and a whole story here and there, but then that popped out a couple years ago.
And it is interesting you were drawn to something that was so fundamental, because I mean, let's face it, you were born in 1988. This design was coined in 2001. I'm guessing this wasn't on your mind as a kid. So you have a little bit of a sentimental streak for Journe's early days.
Yeah, that was because of one person that I saw when I was young. I mean, plenty young at that point. And it was a guy who, very successful guy that my father had worked with, and I'd seen him wearing this from time to time, one of the early models, and at that time it was just a cool watch. I mean, the collecting wasn't really there.
He was someone you admired?
It was just, oh yeah, absolutely, without a doubt. And it was just one of those, I had always kind of noticed it, and again, that was the original, 38 millimeter version, and that's what I associated with Journe basically forever. And then when it came to like actually going and asking for something, as far as like, oh, well, what do you want from brand? I was like, this is going to be the one that resonates for the history part for me. And then, after that, there are other things that are, that are interesting, that I'm looking forward to from them. But that was kind of the start of it. And then also like power reserve at 120 hours of accurate power reserve is wild. I mean, it's like having a big block motor, in your car. So,
yeah, I mean, it's a high-performance machine. There's no doubt about that. But yeah, just a very interesting piece. So foundational for Journe from a style standpoint. That was, one of the earliest Octas. That was the original Octa. But also foundational because you have memories of it from when you were young. And I find a lot of people do, at some point in their lives, choose a watch based on childhood memories.
Yeah, and so between that for this Journe, and then not necessarily just this one, but for the Aquanaut and Porsche. I think I even mentioned this one of the other times, but when I was growing up, and I was already, I'd already been a big watch fan and car fan. I mean, I wasn't able to buy much at that point, but I remember I was in Florida. I was with my parents in the back seat, and this guy pulls up in a black 911, 996 or 997, wearing 5065 or 51, whatever the previous generation was.
Early Aquanaut.
An earlier Aquanaut, one of the two. And I was like, and this is again, at that time, Patek was 30% discounts, that you could
a level of availability we can't imagine
you
today.
could get them so easily. It had none of that, but I saw, ironically, the guy that had this also had one of those Aquanauts too, which may have been another partial priming thing. But I saw this guy driving the 911, Aquanaut there, and I was like, crap, that is cool. Like, and again, even for 911s, that was before, everyone wanted one. It was just really hit a point. So I've kind of, since then, I've always been interested in Aquanauts. And then, I mean, obviously, we have that.
Well, you have a pattern of sort of owning unusual takes on common watches. You've got not that this is common, but it's a well-known watch, but with a crazy color scheme and that Alcantara strap. Obviously, this is canonical Rolex, but not with the Kermit on the back. And of course, this is an exceptional Daytona, so is your vintage piece. You'll never find another one of these. No. And this is a very special Carrera with personal associations and great memories. this is something even I have not seen before. So how on earth did you get the combo of the Aquanaut travel time with the Tiffany dial?
So a friend of mine bought that from the boutique in 2016, and actually how I met him is an interesting thing. I met him randomly in Germany at Oktoberfest. We were at the same hotel. I think he had messaged or mentioned like, hey, are you American? Yeah, definitely. I don't have my American flag outfit on, but apparently just next to it. And I was like, yeah, I'm from Pennsylvania. He's like, oh, where in Pennsylvania? I'm like, from Philly. He's like, oh, we're from Philly. He's there with his wife. Oh, that's interesting. What else? What do you do? What do you interested? Whatever. Cars and watches. He's like, oh, I'm a watch guy. Turns out he's got a bunch of really cool, really cool watches. You name it. He's been a collector for a while. We talked for an hour or two at the bar, and then always stay in touch. We've hung out in Philly. We've actually hung out in a couple other places. They're a really wonderful couple. Really enjoy them. And then a few years ago, he was like, hey, are you interested in a 5164 Tiffany? And I was like, who's not interested in the 5164
no,
Tiffany?
I have no interest. Yeah.
Like that's pretty pretty up there. He's like, well, I'll tell you what, I'll make you a deal. It'll be one that you're gonna really like. I just really want to sell it to someone I know and not out of the world. So he made me a very, very nice deal for that. And I was like, well, this is great because that is effectively the perfect version of a steel Aquanaut to me, period. You have double stamp, which I really in the scheme of things, does it make that much of a difference? No, but does it make it that much cooler because it's a little rarer and a little more special?
Cool. Yeah.
I think that part's cool. And then he bought it back in 2016. You could ask for that green, the Aquanaut green, the 5167 strap. And it wasn't an ask, it wasn't a thing. It was just yeah, sure, no problem. So you have the original strap, came with that, has his receipt from when he purchased it from Tiffany back in 2016, all the other stuff with it. And I was like, well, I'm not beating that. That's my ultimate Aquanaut for that format, and it's the one that John Mayer in the exact same format, had the John Mayer being John Mayer Rolex.
Yeah, before we associated him with colorful Daytona dials and solid gold.
Yeah, that was that's the configuration, and honestly, it is still. That's a phenomenal watch. It used to be owned by almost every one of my friends they crushed it and they were quiet about it, and that was what they were, and they traveled a ton. That was always one of them.
Just the epitome of an understated, elegant watch.
Yeah, it is the annoying, quiet luxury. If it's not ultimate, penultimate.
Yeah, and if you've got good enough eyes to spot that Tiffany stamp on someone else's wrist, God bless you. I don't know how you do that. That's a pretty subtle flex, to be honest.
Yeah,
that's a flex for you. That's a flex for you.
As much as now a Patek sport watch can be subtle, that's subtle.
Well, it's funny. We talk about subtlety, and this is a watch that does it well, and this is very consistent with your kind of view of watches and cars. Porsche takes one thing, does it really well, refines it forever. And I have to admit, back in 2015, when everyone was talking about the end of Cartier fine watchmaking, basically the end of the monster complications, the six-figure watches, the crazy debuts at SIHH, everyone's like, oh, well, I can't believe they're going back on all that after the gains. Well, what gains had they made? No one remembers those watches. Yeah. And these days, Cartier is second only to Rolex in watch sales, based on evergreen classics and none more than the Santos. And my God, were we all wrong about Cartier watches back in 2015. It's going back to the basics that really made them what they are today.
Yeah.
Tell me about this.
So they just came out with, and it is their first titanium watch. So they took the large 39.8 millimeter Santos sizing that's now been out for a minute. I don't actually know the exact amount of time.
2018 they came out with this design.
So it's been out for a minute. Yeah. And they now did it in titanium, and they did it with a bead blast titanium, bead blast bezel, and they just, the moment I saw that hit the Instagram watch publications, I was like, done, that's it, no question. And I've had Cartiers before. I enjoy Cartier. I can't say I'm not the, oh my God, this is the best thing in the world. But that mix of classic and new age, that juxtaposition for me was an instant, okay, that's killer. And the dial, the opaline dial, the hands, the blued hands, non-luminous, it's like grandfather's wall clock mixed with, the newest age, material technology, high tech that you can get. I love that.
I know exactly what you mean, because all of the things this could have been, and it was not. Here we have a very simple broadsword hand, Roman numeral dial, black and silver Cartier watch face inside a blasted titanium case. This could have been black DLC, there could have been luminescence, some sort of fashionable fume, gradient color fade. None of that. They went with their most conservative dial in their most ambitious case.
Yeah, and I think I just think it's a really cool mix. And like, do I want to see them come out with a darker dial? Would I love it if they were to come out with that between medium and large size, as a nitpicker, but relatively speaking, overall, it just really speaks to me. And wear-wise, the bracelet is killer. It is so light. It looks... And it also...
It's
Cartier,
brilliant the way it's built. I can take it apart right here in front of you and not scare anyone.
No, it's amazing. And the way they were able to elevate the finishing just enough to where you're like, ooh, that is a premium product versus some of the other titanium products that kind of just have that, it's purely functional.
Yeah.
They really figured out how to do that. Having the screw plots still be polished screws, just enough shine, just enough low key.
And it's important because sometimes you'll see titanium and it's not immediately obvious that anything's different. The Omega Seamasters with various Panerai Luminor models, and you don't really notice it because there's nothing, you pick it up, it's lighter. Here, that juxtaposition of the polish, just a few polished highlights and the matte Media Blast, oh my God, the power that has.
And it looks so much darker than when you put it up next to steel. Like it's so cool, but without being colored. It's not like it's a PVD or DLC look. It really is its own thing, and it feels expensive.
And it does, and that's a difficult thing with a lightweight watch. Typically a light watch, you think, that's not quite as substantial as I thought. This is every bit as solid as if it were gold. It's just a much more, gossamer thing. It's incredible, but Cartier, they were absolutely right to de-emphasize the minute-repeating perpetual calendar flying tourbillon rotund de Cartier that seemed to drop every year at SIHH. Letting go of that complicated crap that no one wanted, and I say that with love. But my point is letting go of these watches that were very complicated but had no history to favor Cartier's all-time classics. My God, did that pay off. And their sales, their brand equity, this watch, all is a testament to decisions made well. You're incredibly serious about your watches. I'm incredibly serious about my watches. Maybe not too serious.
Can't be too serious.
You're very serious about your German cars. I'm very serious about my American cars. So I gotta ask, what does the future hold? Because this is technically our part 3. What is our part 4 gonna look like in a few years?
Oh man, well hopefully no flying cars yet. I'm not into that.
And hopefully not self-driving, because that seems grim.
No, I don't. As long as we're able to pilot our own stuff, it's fine. If other people want to do them and have their auto drive stuff, which exists now plenty. GM has their
they got
I'm forgetting what it is.
They got Super Cruise.
It is Super
all
Cruise.
over the
That's
place.
right. So I was going to say Super Drive. I'm like, it's not that.
I saw a Waymo drive past the headquarters the other day. I thought
creepy.
they only had those in California.
I know.
It's a
I'm
ghost
used
car.
to it in California, by the way, but here for some reason I'm like, well, the irony is it'll probably help us out because it won't be crashing into other places.
That's true. They won't be hitting that beautiful Porsche.
Yeah, that'd be a nice thing. I used to be worried about them, and now I'm less worried about them than I am someone else. And I'm like, this is an issue because now I'm trusting the the robots.
The robot doesn't text and drive. That's the advantage.
No. It just shares all of its data. As far as like collecting wise, I am waiting for a few of the indie of indies, so to speak. Everything that I'm waiting for, it's only an interesting thing for me if the watchmaker really actually wants to make it for me. And it doesn't mean it has to do something special, but well, it's also just beating down to say like, hey, would you do this? Would you do this? I mean, everyone's doing that with a lot of these guys. It doesn't mean as much to me if it's not that person saying, you know, hey, I actually, like, I want to do this, like, let's do this. Like, what do you want to do? Or, you know, it's going to be a while, but yeah, sure, I will definitely do it for you. That I like. So if that's there, 100% I'm in. I'm definitely still on the path of the Journe collecting because I really enjoyed it, and I've really enjoyed the people around it.
Which is great to hear, because
Yeah.
that is what this is about.
It's the biggest part of it. I mean, not the biggest part, but I'd say it's really equal to the watches themselves.
You wouldn't do it without the watches, but you wouldn't do the watches without the people.
And it's really true. It really, really, really is true. I have a group of people. Wes, I wouldn't have met Wes. I would have probably met Wes at some point, but the first time that I met him was through Journe
And certainly
stuff.
not at that level of connection.
Oh no, not at all. And then another buddy of mine, Cole, that I think you've seen me do some stuff with. Sorry to drag you into that, Cole. I met him also at Journe. A lot of my Miami friends I met through the Journe group. So that collecting, and I don't want all the stuff and all quick. Like, I love the fact that you can take some time out with it. I love going to the aperitifs. I love talking to all the guys about stuff that's not watches, as well. That community's been really strong, so I really have liked that. And then otherwise, whenever a company just comes out with something I just think is fun or cool, that's always fun too. I mean, that's what this was, for me.
Oh yeah.
Or if there was an opportunity that ever came up, with one of those companies to do something special, I love that. And it's not special in the sense of I'm the only one that has it. It's special in the sense of I want a fun story of how this was done in back and forth. I don't want I have everything else and I want that. Or, the person that has one of everything and says, well, I have to have that because I have everything. Or what's the next step? Oh, well, now you have to do it custom for me. That's same deal as with the indies. That's not as fun. So if opportunities like that come up with actually quite a few brands, that becomes really fun for me.
What about icons? Because you could make the case that every single watch on this table is an icon. I mean, this is the Carrera. There is no TAG Heuer or Heuer without the Carrera these days. A GMT, I mean, an overseas, an American 1921, a Reverso Speedmaster.
Oh, Reverso! I plan on doing something with a Reverso because conveniently, on a classic Reverso, not vintage, just a classic style, the whole back of the case is open and free for me to do something stupid on it. So you can guarantee that I will be doing that at some point, and that is cool because then I can wear my art out, like outside versus
For once, Kermit is on the dial, so to speak.
In that case, it could be, but in this case, I have to figure out what I would do, but I can't say that flip it and reverse it hasn't crossed my mind a couple times.
Because we've already got Pop and
We already
Lock
have
right
Pop
here.
and Lock it, so it would fit very well. But I'm sure there is a terribly drawn stick figure or poor something that I can draw on a JLC that would be fun. So that's on my potential list to do.
Okay, so that is going to be an IOU when that watch shows up, presuming it's suitable for PG-13 audiences.
I'm not going to draw anything else on it that wouldn't be in that case.
All right, Drew, thank you so much. This has been a blast,
It's always
man.
a pleasure.
Until part 4, time out.